And one of the things that I think is not based in reality is the propaganda that tells us that we need to continue to do what the Biden administration and his neocon friends on the Republican side want to do, which is to escalate things in Ukraine perpetually, and to use Ukraine as a experimental ground to do woke social conditioning in that part of that region of the world. So joining me now to talk about this is someone who's been on the program before, and he's someone who actually grew up in that region and can share insights with us. Viktor Skuratovsky. How you doing, Viktor?
Good.
Great to have you back on. Very well said. I like your direct answer. You've been watching this Ukraine conflict with great interest for a variety of reasons. You're someone, of course, that you live in America, but you were born over in that region. Tell folks a little bit about your history in that region as a person.
Well, I was born in USSR, not in Ukraine, actually. My nationality was Russian in the passport, but I had Ukrainian relatives, Polish relatives. Everybody of Slavic origin. And I was an Orthodox Christian, persecuted by KGB in the USSR. Was put into mental hospital for 2 weeks, interrogated by KGB. So I know what communism and what USSR really is. Having said that, I view the current events with big interest, and I think I have some insights into what's going on, because I talk to people who live there, who fight there, who pray there. It's not like you're reading American newspapers. You read basically a lot of propaganda, but when you talk to common people who live there and know what's going on, you started to getting into the essence of things. And I can share some insights, something that I learned from people directly who are on the spot, and a lot of things lately been going on. Unfortunately, I'm very, very depressed, and I'm very, very unhappy with what I see in my country. Ukrainian government started quite recently big persecution of the Ukrainian, I repeat, Ukrainian, not Russian, Ukrainian Orthodox Church. The church which is national, that is connection with Ukrainian identity, with Ukrainian history. The church I was attending when I was in my teenage years, when I was a student. The churches where I prayed when I was a very young man. And they started persecution at the request of whom? I was just reading a lot about what's going on. And in my opinion, American people do not know much about Ukrainian government. As they see the war, they see attack of Putin on February 24th last year. That's correct. And I condemn the war. I condemn that attack with all my soul. I am for peace. I'm against Russians killing Ukrainians. Those are two very close nations. They share common language. They share common Orthodox faith. Lots of families are mixed, Like in my family, half and half. There are more than half actually Russians, about 35% Ukrainians, 25% Polish. So for me, watching this is a tragedy. To be honest, it's a criminal war, and I'm against it. It's immoral. I pray for stopping all this conflict. I pray for peace. I pray for the peace deal. But from what I see, the policy of the American government is not correct either. They're supplying the Zelensky government, which basically is anti-Ukrainian, immoral, with more and more weapons. And Zelensky doesn't want to stop, and it provokes Putin. He's provoking Putin, okay? I'm not justifying Putin's aggression on February 24th. However, I can say that Putin in some way was provoked by a Ukrainian government. Unfortunately, I have to admit that. They had agreement in Minsk, Belarus. According to that agreement, Ukraine promised, I say promise, on a piece of paper signed with guarantee of some foreign states, I think British, German state, to give some autonomy, to respect the will of the people of Dombass, Russian-speaking, leaning towards Russia, ethnic Russian, Russian-speaking Ukrainians. They promised to stop the war in Donbass. Okay. However, for 8 years, we didn't see that. We see shelling of, Russian-speaking areas by Ukrainian army. Not like now. Now it's terrible, but it was provoked. I must say, it was provoked. The Putin's government to do this military operation, and right now we need to have peace talks. We need to understand that this war is unwinnable. Nobody's going to be a winner. Everybody's going to be a loser. Ukrainians, Russians, Americans, everybody, Europe. And I have to say that, in my opinion, the roots of that war are deep in Ukrainian and Russian history, unfortunately. In the beginning of 90s, remember it was a Gorbachev time, was a collapse of the Soviet Union. And before leaving for America, I was at the meeting, and I remember Ukrainian nationalist meeting in Kiev. And some Ukrainian priests, but from the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, that had a unity with Moscow Patriarchate came, and people were shouting, "Down with Moscow, priests! Down with Moscow priests!" At that time, I've seen that hatred that Ukrainian nationalism holds for all Russian, okay, even for Orthodox religion, which is totally immoral, which is satanic. This hatred, I mean. Right now in Ukraine, what happens, the many Russian monuments, let's say to Russian poet Pushkin. What Pushkin, a great, by the way, poet, Pushkin, has to do with this military operation, with aggression, with chauvinism, with politics. He was a genius, and all his monuments were destroyed. The monuments of Saint Alexander Nevsky, a big Russian hero who won, the battle with, I believe, the Western invaders, a long time ago, like 800 years ago, also destroyed in Kharkiv, the eastern city. So what we see is basically the government is getting root of history, is getting root of big part of Ukrainian roots that are basically rooted into common history, Russia and Ukraine, okay? Because the source of this unity, Russian and Ukrainian people, is baptism of Russia in 1988 by Saint Vladimir. They want to say, no, that Saint Vladimir was only a Ukrainian. He had nothing to do with Russia. So it's a falsification of history. Okay? Everything connected with Russia. Dave, are you there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, everything what is connected with Russia is negative. Everything. Tsar, Tsarina, for instance, Catherine the Great. A great monument in Odessa recently was destroyed. The replica of the monument that was before revolution. Basically, the lady who founded Odessa, okay, who did so much for expansion of Russian Empire, okay, besides some negative, of course, stuff, but what monarch is without negatives, without sins, okay? But anyway, that monument was Ukrainian history, too, okay? It was destroyed in Odessa by the local authorities. I understand people are angry at Russia, are angry at Putin for this war, and I understand this. And there is a big fault of Russian military and Putin himself in this. However, the period starting from persecution of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, shows the nature of this government that is in Kiev. Okay, the evil nature of this government. And what I think, by supplying more and more weapons, U.S. is not helping to achieve peace, because Ukrainian government need to be pressured to start a dialogue. Let's say Patriarch of Moscow, Kirill, appealed on Christmas for 36-hour ceasefire. And Zelensky refused it, mocked it. He said, "Can we believe Putin? This is deception. We're not gonna do it." Terrible. They don't give even a chance to any peace there. Well, Zelensky, I think yesterday or day before, said, "Without conquering Crimea will not be peace." This is provocation, because people of Crimea chose to be with Russia. I don't think that referendum was 100% democratic under authoritarian rule of Putin. However, I know that the majority of Crimean people are Russian, and they wanted to be with Russia. I know that 100%. I know Crimean people. So where is respect for people's will? In Dombass, okay, at least part of Donbass was very pro-Russian. No, unless we conquer the whole Donbass, it's not going to be peace. What are you going to do with those people who for 8 years already do not call themselves Ukrainians, who do not belong to Ukraine, who use Russian rubles? Okay? There's no compromise. There's no mercy here. There's no attempt to try to understand the other side. Why the shelling of Donetsk almost every day, killing civilians by Ukrainian army? And I know Russian army does a lot of same stuff as Ukrainians, unfortunately. I have proofs of that from my friends in Kiev, from Dnipro, and other regions, and I condemn that. However, I want to say that such a support of Zelensky as a democratic so-called leader is not right. Zelensky is not a Democrat. Before the war started, he forbade all the independent TV and radio channels. TV channels. Okay? Mm-hmm. He was getting more and more authoritarian. Okay? In the country, there was a lot of lawlessness. I have a friend of mine. He's a journalist, Ruslan Kasaba. He was attacked by extreme Ukrainian nationalists in the city of Ivano-Frankivsk. Okay? In his eye were splashed the iodine, that can destroy the eye when you disinfect, wound. And he lost 70% of his eyesight. Nobody was prosecuted. If you publicly were saying something that was not in line with Ukrainian nationalism, you could be attacked. You could be killed. In 2015, Ukrainian journalist Oles Buzina was killed in the city of Kiev. The police identified by doing DNA who the killers were. To this moment, they go free. That's Ukraine. There's no juridical system. Okay, there is fear of this lawlessness on the part of nationalists. This is not the Nazi that when we talk about Nazi Germany now. None, of course. However, this is nationalism with big leaning towards Nazism. Okay, very anti-Russian. Filled with hatred.
A lot of these folks in the Azov battalion consider themselves and are the grandsons of these Nazi collaborators, though, right? And they embrace the symbolism and everything, right?
Okay. In the very beginning, this is much true. Later on, it became part of Ukrainian army, and many of them were not Nazis. Later on, I heard a lot about Azov, but in the very beginning, what you're saying 100% was in the very beginning of the foundation of Azov.
People still report and show videos of them using the symbols of Nazis to this day in active combat.
Yes.
So they're still doing
them,
it.
And in the beginning, it was like almost 100%, like you said. Later on, many people just went in there to fight, Russia or protect Ukraine. It's changed over time somehow, somewhat. Okay.
Well, that's what the American media says, but I think that the photos that people are seeing of people still actively using those symbols shows that those symbols and ideas probably don't represent everybody in there, but it certainly seems to be a big presence without any problem for the folks managing these units.
Here's the thing. In Ukraine, using swastika is forbidden by law. Nazism is forbidden by law. There is a law in Ukraine forbidding communism and Nazism. However, when you go into Ukrainian nationalists who were fighting with Hitler against NKVD, right, the KGB, they kind of suspended law, okay? So now Ukrainian unit that was fighting on the side of Hitler with those Nazi symbolic is not forbidden for some reason. The Nazi battalion, as you said, having this symbolic was not prosecuted. So they made some exception against
the other one
Ukrainian
is that, what about the Tornado Battalion? Do you know anything about that?
They were prosecuted. However, they let them go when war started. They needed warriors, so...
And they've done some heinous... Those guys have done some pretty heinous stuff from what I've seen in the record.
But they were judged and they were put to jail, fortunately. I mean, something was... I would say was done right.
Let's just put it this way, but we need... The Tornado Battalion has done some heinous stuff to children, and Nancy Pelosi doesn't tell the truth about it. Joe Biden doesn't tell the truth about it. Mitch McConnell doesn't tell the truth about it. And Donald Trump doesn't tell the full truth about it. Mike Pence doesn't tell the full truth about it. None of the figures that people look to for political ideas in America are telling the full scope of the different things going on that we're supposed to be lauding as the good guys in this fight. We'll continue with Victor on the other side. Hold on, Victor. We'll continue in just a moment getting into the persecution of the Orthodox Church in Ukraine after this break. A Neighbor's Choice returns. I'm your host, David Gornoski. We're talking about the reality of what's going on in the Ukraine war and how this very basic, two-dimensional, cartoonish view that we get in the American media is not accurate, and it's not pro-American in its implications. It's not pro-peace. It's not pro-human. And it's not pro-Ukraine. And joining me to talk about this is our guest with us, someone in Central Florida who grew up in the USSR and has friends who are both Russian and Ukrainian and knows about what's going on the day-to-day side of things. And I agree with Victor on the concept that I don't want wars to start, and I don't believe that it's something that Christians should ever do. But I do believe that, I think Victor alluded to that the West has been deliberately for some time goading this war, and it seemed to be that there's a huge amount of responsibility for this, and it's obviously something that if America was sane, would be trying to, in terms of its government, would be trying to broker a peace rather than, as Mike Pence said on Fox News recently this week, we should be giving them even more vicious weapons. Zelensky, according to Greg Price, Zelensky says it is dangerous for Americans to question the amount of aid being given to Ukraine because if Ukraine loses, quote, Russia is going to enter Baltic states, NATO member states, and the U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters to war, and they will be dying. Victor, your response?
Well, this is propaganda. There is, Western propaganda, Zelensky propaganda. There is Russian propaganda. And the person who knows the situation very well knows, do not trust any kind of propaganda. We have to know what's for sure. I know very good journalists who tell the truth. Unfortunately, they speak only in Ukrainian and in Russian. And I have a pretty much objective and clear, true picture what it is. I think that Putin is not. He's going to stop right there. He wants peace right now, in my opinion. I'm not sure 100% after what we started on February 24th, because I believed he would not start that. I said, no way, Putin is not going to attack. He's going to only stay with Dombass area. No, it happened. It happened, okay? And I'm against it. I condemn that, okay? However, I believe that Putin now wants to stop, at least to try. And agreement has to be between Ukraine and Russia with the participation of Western countries, especially the United States, to broker that agreement. We have to try to make peace. Without this, we lose our human face, okay? Where are we going to stop? When Zelensky said, only peace with conquering Crimea, is he crazy? Reconquering Crimea with Russian population? To me, this is, this is absolute madness. When he says we have to reconquer all the Donbass, what is going to happen to all those people, Russians and Russian-speaking Ukrainians who want to live in Russia? I believe in Ukrainian sovereignty. However, since coup d'etat or so-called Maidan happened, many Russian-oriented people didn't want to be in Ukraine. And that's a reality, very sad reality, okay? So people in Crimea said, no, we don't want to stay in a country that is without law, with all that violence that happened, with illegal government after Yanukovych, who was basically legally, lawfully elected president of the Ukraine, Viktor Yanukovych. And he was deposed by coup d'etat illegally. That's the truth. Putin is right saying this. This is correct. So Ukraine has to start dialogue and make compromise with Putin, with Russia, with those regions, split regions, mainly Donbass and Crimea. Okay. However, there is a problem here. Besides Donbass and Crimea, Putin joined two other areas in the south of Ukraine, which were not very much obviously Russian-oriented. Okay, and this is the problem. This is a real problem I see here. However, to stop this war and to start talking about Crimea and Donbass, what is the problem? Just to announce ceasefire. Stop killing each other. Brothers, stop killing your brother. Okay? No, he wouldn't stop. Give me more arms. We're going to reconquer Crimea. We're going to bombard Donetsk, kill people in Donetsk. This is criminal. This is unacceptable. Okay? I'm not justifying what Russia does with Ukraine by bombing Ukrainian cities with rockets, bombing power grids, depriving people of, energy sources, making them freeze. Kids are dying in the hospitals because powers have no supply. Terrible things are happening. I talk to Ukrainian people, okay? This is not propaganda. This is reality what's happening. Ukraine and Russia, they do terrible things to each other, okay? As one bishop, Greek Orthodox bishop said, the Satan is having his, he's having his fist in Ukraine. And that's what's happening. Hatred, killing each other, bombs, rockets. This has to stop. We have to start negotiations. And to be honest with you, I don't see that America is pushing Zelensky to stop this. I don't see it. I see Donald Trump. I believe he is sincerely saying that. And I believe if Donald Trump was president, that might not happen at all. What do you think, David?
Well,
Trump's
I've got
statement
a listener online asked a question for you. Is Zelensky pressuring NATO for military aid, or is it the other way around? In other words,
Absolutely.
who exactly
Absolutely.
is interested in prolonging the war?
Zelensky, primarily.
You don't
Ukrainian nationalists
I
who
I
stand
think
behind him.
I think Zelensky has no power. I think he's an asset of the of the Western governments and their oligarchic interests.
Here's the thing.
He has no power. He has zero power on his own. He's an employee.
This is also true, but the truth is wider than that. This is very big part of the truth, what you're talking. However, I believe that if Zelensky will start negotiations, he will become adequate. You know what I'm talking about? That he might be killed by Ukrainian nationalism, who will not. It's a party of war in Ukraine.
Ukrainian nationalists would just be assets of the same intelligence agencies that John McCain and Lindsey Graham used to train, equip, and radicalize those nationalist groups. It would be America killing Zelensky.
I'm not sure. I can. Well, what I do not know, I cannot answer. Dave,
a listener asked because when Zelensky came into power, initially he wanted peace for Donbass, correct?
Yes. And I wanted to tell something, Dave.
So there's another power that's controlling Zelensky now. He's not in control, it looks like.
I'm not sure that he's not in control at all. I think he has some control, him and his mafia in Ukraine. Okay.
What can Kiev do? What can Kiev do against?
Money.
What can Kiev do against the power of London and America and everybody else that's got? I mean, Kiev has no power compared to them.
I agree with that too. And Zelensky did some positive stuff in the beginning. I must say.
I think Zelensky. I'm not an expert at all, but just looking at it, I think Zelensky is a great actor with a gun against his head. When you can't see the camera view and the CGI graphics, there's a gun against his head, making him do what he's doing. Basically, I mean, who knows?
And who is putting that gun? Question.
Well, somebody who wants to prolong that war, because I don't think Russia or the Ukrainian people want this war to continue.
Absolutely no. They don't want. They're very tired. Every single Ukrainian I talk to, they spit. They say, "Damn this war! Damn, we don't want this war."
Well, I can tell you one thing: Victoria Nuland has no interest in having that war end anytime soon.
I will not comment on that because I don't know. See, some things I don't know. I can't read minds of the people. I'm not a clairvoyant. Okay. However, I can judge by some actions what politicians are doing. And to me, Zelensky in the beginning had some sincere and good ideas. To believe it or not, with all my negative view of Zelensky right now, in the beginning, he wanted to do some because many good people voted for Zelensky. Poroshenko, who was another candidate, he was behind. He was a party of war, the Ukrainian nationalists. Behind Zelensky, were many good, adequate Ukrainian people. And he wanted to do some peacemaking job. He went to Dombass, started talking. If you watch the news, I watch it very carefully. And party of war went to say no to capitulation, no peace with Putin. And they pressured him very much. And I think he got scared to the point where he's not making any decisions, as you say. That it looks like the case, unfortunately. So I cannot confirm this 100%, but right now we have totally different Zelensky than Zelensky in the very beginning. We have another Poroshenko basically in power who started persecution of Ukrainian Orthodox Church.
Well, look what happened to look what happened to Gaddafi. He was a longtime asset of, and then he becomes against them, and then he's gone. He's butchered in the streets. Look at what happens to Saddam Hussein. He was an asset of the Western powers, and then he's hanged. Look at what happens to Osama bin Laden, who was an asset of the Western powers to go against the Soviet Union, and then he's lost at sea somewhere, wherever he is. Look at what happens to folks who are originally playing ball with the Western powers, and then they go off script. I can assure you Zelensky's life would very much be in danger if he were to say, America, guess what? Putin and I, we figured out something. He's going to keep some of his breakaway republics. We're going to get a piece of it back. We're going to make a new deal. He's going to be in a big danger for his survival of a lot of things in his family and everything. So he's not in a good spot.
That with Poroshenko was made a Minsk agreement deal. Do you know that?
Yeah.
And Poroshenko, in some ways, was even worse than Zelensky. However, he signed a deal in Minsk. He signed a Minsk agreement. It's a very good agreement. Basically, if Ukraine, if they went by those agreements, the whole conflict would stop. However, Ukraine would have to sacrifice part of Dombass and the Crimea to say, yes, this is a reality. We will respect the will of Russian, leaning people in those areas. Let's make peace, no more war. Okay? Democratization, 2 official languages, Russian and Ukrainian. Let's go back to a good Ukraine before coup d'etat, before 2014. However, what happened? They just played, and as Putin said, that was just they were just pretending, and it is correct in some ways. Only in some ways. I'm not justifying, and I'm not saying Putin 100% correct on everything, because I'm not a defender of Putin. I'm not pro-Putin. Rather, I'm against Putin. But I can say that part of what he says is true. What he said about persecution of church, about Ukrainian government that were basically deceiving Russian government in signing Minsk agreement, and also unwillingness of the Ukrainian government to make a deal, to make a compromise. Even Stalin, when he was defeated by Finns, remember, before the war, and later on, he signed agreement. Okay, this is it. Finland, I respect Finland. Finland will be independent. And Finland said, yeah, we will be neutral. So if dictator Stalin could have agreement with Finland, why in the world Zelensky cannot find agreement with Putin? Is Putin worse than
because he's not,
Stalin
because
or
he
Hitler?
He doesn't own his country. BlackRock does in the network of oligarchs that they represent. Mm-hmm. That's who owns that property right now, the western part. And I think that Russia is in the service of some of the oligarchic interests that want their piece of the pie too. And like you have alluded to, human life is what's most paramount, not land and resources. But to psychopath oligarchs, no matter whether they're on the west or the side, life is cheap, because if you're a psychopath, you've turned your heart over to Satan.
Okay, well, I have a question for you. Why would Zelensky start persecution of the historical biggest Christian church in Ukraine by splitting Ukraine, basically by announcing religious war, which works against Ukrainian interests? Why he wants to do away with Ukrainian canonical Ukrainian Orthodox Church? What is the goal here? My question to you.
Because I don't think he's in charge. I don't know what his views are. He's a good actor, that's for sure. He's good for primetime lights, camera, action.
He's a clown. He's a clown.
He's a clown, and he's a useful puppet for people who do not like historic Christianity. They want to replace with a one world religion, one world government, and keep people in debt.
Yeah.
Keep people not breeding. The folks who want to have control over Ukraine on the western side would be very happy with Ukraine and fully embracing genital mutilation for young children, and that is their sacrament. They enjoy that because they're at war with they are at war with God's creation. That's what I would say.
Absolutely right. You're 100% right. As a matter of fact, Zelensky signed right after he started persecution of Ukrainian Orthodox Church a law that basically forbids in public to criticize LGBT. How do you like that?
Yeah.
Even in America, you don't have such a law. There is a First Amendment, freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
In Ukraine, there is a law that basically says you cannot in public discriminate against LGBT. What does that mean? You cannot quote the Bible? You cannot preach against homosexuality? Well, many Christians were outraged, not only Orthodox, of course, Catholics, Protestant. but he basically has no power but to do this satanic stuff. And Ukrainian parliament almost unanimously voted for it. Okay? So obviously, those are signs that he is a tool of the devil, basically, Zelensky. He's persecuting a canonical Orthodox Church that is against immorality, against gender ideology, for peace between Russian and Ukraine, church that promoted not Nazism, but basically the healthy Ukrainian patriotism, okay? Which has nothing to do with Bandera, Shukhevich, and all those criminals who killed thousands of Poles, Jews in Ukraine during the war. Okay, terrorists, basically. They were killing Polish ministers, the Bandera people, Ukrainian nationalists. So, of course, they would hate Ukrainian Orthodoxy because Ukrainian Orthodox Church is a tool of truth, okay? This only remaining institution, only hope for Ukraine to get Ukrainian back on track. You understand, Dave, right?
Yeah.
So they want to kill the only hope that is left. Because Ukrainian Orthodox Church basically condemned military operation in Dombass in 2014, for which she was hated by Ukrainian nationalists a lot, attacked. You know how many churches were taken away? Hundreds of churches were taken away.
Wow.
In the western region of Ivano-Frankivsk, there is only one church left. Okay? The priests were brutalized, beaten by all those, they're called Nazis, extreme Ukrainian nationalists. It's not quite SS Hitler's people. No, this is different. But it's close, okay? The ideology is pretty close. If you say about hatred, violence, lawlessness, satanic nature.
So Biden's clients, these people are beating up priests? That's what you're saying?
Oh yeah.
Biden. I thought Biden and Pelosi are people of faith. I thought Mike Pence is a deeply religious person. Why are they telling the American people? Why are they telling the American people to continually arm folks who are beating down priests in Ukraine?
Now, here's the thing. This information is suppressed. I only saw it on Fox News. There's a petition for the Ukrainian to stop persecution of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. I asked people around. Nobody knows about it, about persecution. In Ukrainian Metropolitan Onufry went to UN to complain about persecution. And you know what country participated in discussion and said we need to protect Russian government? And the Ukrainian government said, "Oh, see, the Putin is protecting, and this is a pro-Putin organization. This is not a church. It must be destroyed." Okay? Well, where is the governments of the Orthodox countries? Romania, Greece. Where is the American government who talks so much about LGBT rights, human rights, right? Where? Why they do not see the violation of human rights with when police is frisking nuns, priests, bishops in Ukraine, violating their basic rights.
You know what's interesting. You know what's interesting too. It's the same classic playbook we've seen by modernists who hate, beauty and hate families and hate innocence and freedom. A commenter said the church is the uniting factor of Ukraine and Russia. That church had to be done away with, and I agree with that. And
Exactly.
it reminds me of what's going on in America right now, where all the churches are always schismatic and breaking away and dividing. It reminds me of what happened with Vatican II, where it created, the vernacular mass in which, the church became divided and split. It seems to be a similar playbook, divide and conquer. Don't have unity amongst the churches.
Here's the thing, Dave. Here's the thing. To be precise, the dividing factor, the evil factor is liberal ideology, globalist ideology, gender ideology, which basically undermines the biblical morality and biblical faith. Okay? Feminism. All this liberal ideology is to destroy the church. There is a liberal Lutheran church in somewhere in Tampa. They bless same-sex couples. What kind of Christianity that is? Are you there, Dave?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, what kind of Christianity it is? Bible condemns same-sex union as a big sin, great sin. Okay? So when you do away with morality, when you introduce feminism in the church, make woman a priest, a bishop, etc., you destroy masculinity, the order given by God, the patriarchal order given by God. Okay? And society basically is losing morals, accepting abortion. As John Paul, Pope said, the civilization of death. Okay? Pro-contracept, pro-abort, okay? And now gender ideology, which people cannot reproduce themselves.
Yep.
This is totally anti-God. You close yourself to life. If you close yourself to life accepting LGBT ideology, abortion, transgenderism, this is totally satanic. It's very obvious. And they try to, through Zelensky, they try to introduce in Ukraine the same thing that are in the West. Okay? There were many gay prides in Ukraine against the will of the Ukrainian people, with the voice of American embassy condemning Christian demonstrators who were protesting all those evil deeds.
May God have mercy. We will pray for peace. Victor, thank you for your contributions to today's broadcast. I'm David Gornoski. Godspeed.